Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Why I wish I had more debt. This is a concept that investors understand, but before we start investing or when we're just starting out, it's almost a concept that is unbelievable, especially if you're from the all debt is bad camp. My goal in this video is to help you understand how financial freedom happens a lot faster and easier if we use leverage. And another word for leverage is debt. But I haven't met most of you yet. And I don't know if you like, hate, love, or even understand the different types of debt. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to bring on a guest that I know who hates debt. He actually wishes that he had no debt. He woke up one day at the age of 40, found himself divorced, single parent with 3 kids, and in $89,000 in bad debt in his name that he didn't know existed until the divorce. If I can help this guy understand that more debt would be awesome, maybe I can help you understand that debt might help you reach financial freedom. Before I bring my guest in, I want to go over some types of debt that I don't want. I don't want consumer debt, things like credit card debt, personal loans, or loans on anything that doesn't produce more money than it costs. Creating these types of debts would make it much harder to reach financial freedom. It can delay it or make it completely impossible to do. One of the things to focus on is not creating more of these bad debts. And if you have them, focusing on paying them off. I have this video here that tells you if I would choose to invest or to focus on paying down debts. For me to explain that debt is a strong tool, I will be talking to myself. Well, I'll be talking to you, but I'm going to bring myself in the video. And this all makes total sense as long as you don't think about it. I'm going to be using this crystal of time travel. And I can't actually go there because time is like a river. It only flows in one direction. But since this crystal existed at both points in time, I'm able to use it to connect 2 rafts that are traveling down that river so that I can have a conversation with myself. There was a point where I hated debt in all of its forms. If at that point in my life I had encountered anything Dave Ramsey related, I probably would have gone the route of no debt and still have to work for at least 20 more years, instead of doing things the way that I did, where I made work completely optional a few years ago. I found out about the $89,000 in bad debt in my name when I was going through my divorce. And I was only making about $17 an hour after the divorce. As a single parent, I really didn't see a way of getting out of that debt. I remember telling several people, I think I'm going to be one of those guys that has to work until he's dead. So let me see now how this conversation goes. And remember, this all makes sense if you don't think about it. Howdy? Howdy. Hi, me. I am going to ask a favor of myself. Okay, this is weird. I'm you about 11 years from today. Well, from your today anyway. Interesting. So you are me, but not today. At some point, you start a YouTube channel where you try to educate people that they can reach financial independence in 10 years or less, even if they're not starting from the best position, which you weren't, and you did. Okay, that makes sense if I don't think about it. So how do we do it? Do we make time travel a thing and then tell myself the winning lottery numbers or which stocks to buy? Well, that would be the fastest way, but it would create a paradox. And since I didn't actually win the lottery, if I gave you those numbers, then my reality wouldn't happen. And I kind of like my reality. Fair enough. What I want to go over with you is how to get out of all that bad debt. Awesome. I actually wasn't sure how I was going to do that. I am all ears. The answer is more debt. Okay, more debt. What? You mean like I borrow money from somebody to pay off the debt, and then I would just owe that money to somebody new? Not exactly, but you're close. Let's start with this. Who has more money, you or a bank, and why? I would think a bank. Right. But why? Well, because people put their money in a bank and nobody's giving their money to me. Exactly. But you do realize that the money in the bank is debt for the bank, right? What? When you put money in the bank pays you interest, right? Yeah, well, it's not much. It's like 3%. Uh-huh. And that does go down a bit. Now it's about 0.02%. But why would the bank want people to keep money there if it costs the bank interest? Because the bank loans out the money at a higher interest rate, making money from our deposits. Right. And I really don't have the time today to cover what fractured banking is, but basically, since the bank is only required to keep 10% of the funds available that they lend out, they basically lend your money out 10 times. So not only are they lending it out at a higher interest rate, but they can do it multiple times. Fractured what now? Doesn't matter. Okay, so the money in the bank is debt for the bank. I understand. Okay, and the bank makes a lot of money. The more debt the bank has, the more money the bank has to put to work, right? I think so. Okay, let me try a different path. Right now you're working at a truck driving school making $17 an hour, right? Right, I was laid off from a police department. It seems like some kind of recession is starting. Yeah, I remember. It will actually be called the 2008 market crash. That sounds more fun than it is. Agreed. Why are you working? Well, I need the money. I am a single parent with 3 kids that are relying on me for things like food and heat and something called a Tickle Me Elmo. Okay, so why does your boss want to be in your debt? What? Well, you work for 2 weeks, putting your boss in your debt, and then the company pays out your paycheck, canceling out the debt every 2 weeks. Why do they do this? Well, I never looked at it that way. They do this because I make them more money than it costs to pay me. Exactly. You are a tool the company uses to make more money than it costs to pay you. Debt is a tool that you can use to make more money than it costs. Huh. I'm almost understanding you. Good. Okay. We reach financial freedom by buying rental properties. Cool. How do we get the money to do that? Houses are like $200,000. Well, they're closer to $450,000 each now. Wow. I should buy all of them then, right? If they're going to double in price in the next 10 years. Well, you're right. We should, but how could we? You don't make a lot, and saving money is hard. I can't imagine how long it would take me to save $200,000. And it sounds like by the time I did that, prices would be $450,000. That's depressing. Right. But there is a way to buy rentals without having to save the whole amount. Let me guess. Using debt. Exactly. The first one that you buy is going to be a duplex. You're going to purchase it with an owner-occupied loan so that you can do less down, and you're going to get a 30-year fixed rate, low interest rate loan. You're going to move into one side and rent out the other, almost living for free so that you can save the difference, making saving the next down payment a lot easier. Wait, I buy a duplex, move into one side, and rent out the other? Right. I pay a lot for housing. This sounds like a life hack, like I would be hacking my housing. So close. But yes, and this makes it a lot easier to save the down payments for the next place. But if I'm only saving up the down payments, that means I'm taking out mortgages, which is creating more debt, and I'm already in a bunch of debt that I don't want. This sounds scary. Right, I understand that concern, but that is debt that you have to pay off. When you take out a mortgage on a rental property, the rents coming in will be more than the mortgage, so you don't pay that off. The tenants do. And on top of that, there's cash flow coming in to cover things like maintaining and repairing the property, covering the cost of a vacancy. And on top of that, the rent that comes in is called cash flow. The more rentals that you have, the more cash flow you have, making reaching financial freedom possible. If you buy the right rentals. Right. Buying the right rentals would be the trick. Right. That's where you take control. Listen to audiobooks on real estate. Watch YouTube videos. The information is out there for you to educate yourself so that you know which properties to go after. Okay, and how many properties does it take to be financially free? Like 50 or 100? Maybe more? No, that's actually something a lot of people think, but really, when you get to 4 properties, it's life-changing. That's when this thing starts to happen that you call the income snowball. As you add more cash flow, saving and investing gets easier and easier and faster. Okay, I think I got it. Some debt is bad and it costs you money, and some debt is good and it makes you money. So the more good debt that I have, the more money I make, which means I want a lot of good debt. I better get started. Awesome. That is what I was hoping would happen. Well, that or a multiverse ending paradox, but I'll take it. Okay, thanks, Dion. I will see me later. Okay, that was a little easier than I thought it was going to be, and now that I've done it, I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. Or tomorrow, depending on which order I record this in. I wish I had more debt. Here's the current breakdown. I have $1.8 million in mortgages. I owe $1.8 million to the banks. If I said that to myself, I probably would have freaked out. But I'm letting you know this because that's made it possible for me to build a net worth of $1.5 million. If I sold everything and paid the taxes and paid the seller's commission fees, I would walk away with $1.5 million. And my cash flow now with 16 rental units is a little over $100,000 a year without having to get out of bed. The debt that I used made it possible for me to make work completely optional. And it's something that you can do too. You need to do it with some intelligence and not over leverage. And I do have ways to protect my portfolio by diversifying my properties and diversifying my tenants. My strategies have me ready for a prolonged government shutdown, a pandemic, or a stock market crash. Oh, I missed a chance to tell myself about the pandemic. I don't think I would have believed me though. I think it was easier to get me to believe that more debt was the solution for debt. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Hey, thanks for picking this up today. We should probably do this again sometime.
Sure.
Before we set this down, one last piece of advice. And this is very important, more important than anything financial that I can tell you. You ready? Never date anybody you work with. I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I must be going into a tunnel or something.